Welcome to Toasting the Classics, the podcast where we take something that people call a classic and we talk about it. When we drink something inspired by the classic, the room is full tonight. Everybody start introducing yourselves. My name's Dave McArthur, by the way. I'm always here, but who else is here tonight?
Hi, everyone. I'm Chris Gragg.
Chris is a returning guest host.
Bill Hodges.
Bill Hodges has already done a show today, so he's just nasty with the Toasting the Classics vibe. So, who's left? Who else do we have here?
And I'm Andrew Park. I'm the newbie.
Andrew Park, first time on the show. Welcome, Andrew. Good to see you. So, what are we doing? Chris, what did we decide to do?
We decided to do Sinners, the 2025 version, in case you're wondering, not the 2007 version.
Was there a 2000? What's the 2007 version? It's not the version of the film. You mean it's something called Sinners?
No, this is an entirely new.
This is an entirely okay. All right, just wanted to make sure.
Together a totally different movie that also just happens to be named Sinners. I think there's also a 1998 version.
I imagine the name has come up before in the annals of film history. This is not a remake or anything like that. That's good. Yeah,
we already are off on a digression. I'm sorry. You asked me what it's about. It's about 1920s ruffians from Chicago coming back to their home in Mississippi.
Is the year that the film takes place? That was something I was going to look that up, and I actually forgot to because it felt like the 30s to me. But
they're referenced as working for Al Capone.
Yeah, so that could be either
one. When did he go to jail?
Set in 1932 in the Mississippi Delta.
32.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry for slowing everybody
down. Thank you for the correct.
Yeah. So yeah, it felt like early 30s, and one of the reasons why I wanted to know the answer to that question was because of some. Actually, let's talk about the rest of the plot before we talk about what I'm about to say, because what I'm about to say has to do with the plot. Yeah, so it's just a movie about the Mississippi Delta in the 30s, right?
And this isn't set in the world of Twilight.
There's a lot of sparkling that goes on.
Sparkling. Michael Jordan's face was like glowing and glittering, and it was spectacular.
One of the Michael B. Jordans was.
This is Michael B. Jordan pulling a Patty Duke and playing two characters in this film. We got Smoke and Stack, two tough guy brothers originally from the Mississippi Delta who have gone off to make their way in 1920s Chicago, and then for some reason left at the beginning of the 30s decade to come back to Mississippi with a big reputation and trying to make some money, and they want to start a juke joint. So far, all this sounds perfectly non-supernatural, but halfway through the movie takes a little bit of a turn. There's no hints that it's supernatural for the first hour.
There's the red glowing eyes on the intro.
Red glowing eyes on the intro.
When there's the intro about the power of music.
Oh, true.
Transcend boundaries, and then the one figure in black and white turns around and has these red glowing eyes.
Yeah, I don't think it was supposed to be like a surprise that this film ends up being about vampires, but I end up thinking, I've seen this twice now, and I end up thinking I'm watching this really pleasant to watch movie about the Deep South in the 30s, and then it just turns into a vampire movie halfway through. And each time I'm like, did it need to do this? Did we need these vampires?
I'm with you.
But it's good. And to be perfectly honest, the second time I watched it, I enjoyed all the supernatural stuff more than I did the first time. I thought it's very well done. It's just like two different movies. And you've got a good movie for the first hour that just doesn't seem to need it to me. But
yeah, I think the first time I watched it, when I saw it, because I had seen the trailers and it completely spoils the fact that there are vampires in it. And so I was thinking, would I have actually enjoyed it, or would I? Well, I think at the time I was thinking I was disappointed knowing that there are going to be vampires coming into it. Like, I felt like, oh, it would have been great to have that surprise, but you make a point that maybe that would have been way too jarring. Be like, wait a minute, where is this coming from?
I have kind of a rule with these sorts of things, is that you cannot introduce magic like halfway through something. It has to be that you're in that world, and that's how it works. I don't know. It bothers me if things take a turn like that, where you think it's a normal movie and then or TV show or whatever.
Oh, I was gonna say, how would you have felt if you didn't know anything about Predator and you didn't see that intro with the spaceship coming in? And
similar.
It was just,
yeah, good point. I mean, I knew what that movie was the first time I watched it, before I watched it. In fact, I was kind of surprised by the Special Forces movie that takes up the first half of Predator the first time I watched it. I was like, wait, this is just Commando in the jungle. But then when Predator shows up, that was the movie I was expecting. That's a very good comparison. It's kind of similar to that, because that's a really good action movie for the first 45 minutes or whatever it takes. And then it just goes into another level. And that one, I mean, the Predator stuff just elevates that film above what it would have been otherwise.
This is skipping a little ahead in my notes, but one of the ones I have here is that it reminds me in a weird way of From Dusk Till Dawn.
It's inspired by From Dusk Till Dawn, he said, Ryan Coogler.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that's one he watched a bunch of times. And I mean, they're holed up in that bar and they're fighting a bunch of... I mean, it's And I think From Dusk Till Dawn is based on an earlier film, maybe not an American one, and I can't remember what it was.
Coogler has obvious homages to other films or entire whole scenes ripped off. When
Uh-huh.
they are stuck in there and they're all having to eat the garlic, it's clearly just a scene from the thing with a twist ending,
A little
which
bit.
I thought was
Yeah.
good.
The part where Delta Slim just sort of chokes on the garlic. You really are on the edge of your seat for a second. You're like, wait, what's going on here?
Perhaps we could just sort of do a recap of the first half of the movie and then invite in our final guest for the second.
Right, right. Yeah, but we have to make sure he eats some garlic before we do so because it's probably not a good idea to invite him. The first half of the movie is just meeting all the characters and setting the scene. It's very, I think one of the major things that you have to discuss with this movie is that this is the movie that Black Panther made because this guy has a gigantic budget for an original piece of film that just doesn't happen today. I mean, he's got whole towns built and scenery and great actor, solid special. The special effects are nothing to write home about. They're solid. There's no complaints, but it's nothing new that you haven't seen before, and that probably saves some money, honestly. Yeah, I mean, it's just the sets are probably the number one thing that it seems like they spent a lot of money on, and they work. Like they're really good sets, really good shots of those cotton fields at the beginning of the movie when they're driving through the cotton fields are really phenomenal. There's some great shots of the forests, like with the live oaks behind them when he goes over. What's Smoke's ex-wife or ex-girlfriend? I don't know whether they're married. Um,
Annie.
Thinking about
Annie.
Mary
When he goes
or
to see
okay.
Annie and she's at the shop and there's those big like it's actually filmed in Louisiana, not Mississippi, so it definitely looks like Louisiana, but those like Louisiana forests and stuff are really well shot too. When I saw it in a theater, that stuff really hits you. It's very immersive. Like it's one of those movies you want to see on the big screen. I keep coming back to the scene where they're driving through the cotton fields. That one just really hits you as a piece of cinema when you see it in the movie theater. Did you guys all see this in the theater?
No.
Yeah, I
Yes.
was actually really lucky that a friend of mine wanted to go see it, and I said that I heard about all the the different screenings they had, including the IMAX ones. And even though we didn't have the 70 millimeter here, I wanted to see it on IMAX. So I went to the Udvar Hazy Smithsonian
Oh,
Theater,
nice.
and
Nice.
so I got to see it on like the biggest screen in the DC area, and it was just amazing to watch that way. And I'm really glad I got to see it that way because it's still really good on TV screen, but it blows it away when you get to see it like that.
It's not the same seeing it on the small screen. Maybe we should save it for when Joe gets here, but like the scene in the film, probably the most like striking scene to watch that when they're in the juke joint and the camera is
Mhm.
panning around and there's all that music and stuff. That is something that should be seen on the big screen. That's really an immersive and powerful scene that's really great to see. And there's so much going on. Like there's different characters all in the background. It's like kind of like the Mos Eisley Cantina, but of African American music, basically. Like you have like all like Prince and the guy that looks like Prince somewhere and some hip hop guys from the 70s and
It's just also really good to have a great sound system when you're
oh
listening to
yeah.
that too,
Oh
because
yeah. You know what I
that's
noticed?
a huge part.
I have to give props to the HBO Max app because I just had to get through the movie and I had lots of stuff to do, so I had to watch the second half on my phone, which is awful. But the app connected to my Bluetooth, they do something different than other apps, and the sound was amazing. Like I kept looking up to make sure that it wasn't like playing out loud from my phone, like for everyone to hear. But it sounded great. Like I don't know what they do differently, but it was really effective. So anyway, I mean the sound in this movie's terrific. Anyway, the music is great. There's a whole bunch of good music in this. Billy, you didn't see it in the theater?
No, I didn't. I didn't. I saw it at home, but I mean, I think that the cinematography and I would agree the soundtrack and the cinematography both are spectacular. I saw it from home. I didn't honestly know a whole lot about it the first time I saw it, and initially I was a little turned off by the idea of another vampire movie. I was like, okay, another vampire
Hmm.
movie. And then after hearing a little bit more about it, and actually, I think was like, "Oh, you really got to see it." And I was like, "Oh, okay, well." So I did after it came out on HBO Max, and definitely kind of wish I had seen it, especially after learning a little bit more about this director and writer since he's from here.
Oh, that's
He,
right. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
from
for
Oakland,
yeah,
right?
Richmond,
Oh,
yeah,
Richmond. Okay.
Richmond
All right.
yeah.
specifically.
He was born and raised until he was 8 in Oakland, and then he moved here, but spent a lot of time in Oakland, and then actually went to school in Sacramento as well. Went to
Hmm,
Sac State
Oh,
for his undergrad.
pretty cool. Films, I know obviously Black Panther, but what are his other films? Does anybody know those?
Station's the one that got him on the map. Fruitvale Station.
Fruitville Station.
I don't know that.
That was that I can't remember now. Was that Michael B. Jordan or Chadwick Boseman in the leading role?
That was also Michael B. Jordan.
Okay.
But that was the based
That's
on the true story. I don't know much more of the details beyond that, but
I was going to say Creed was probably the biggest.
Oh
Oh,
yes,
that's
and that.
Creed
right. Of
series.
course, of
Yeah.
course, it was Creed. So basically, he did a couple of what am I not genre movies necessarily, but like movies that were big properties, and that's why he was kind of allowed to sort of run with this one. Like, because you've got Creed, which is the Rocky franchise, which by the way, Creed's a pretty good movie. The first one's really good. I actually thought the second one was pretty good too. The third one, where they let Michael B. Jordan direct, is a little whack, but you know. They're like kung fu fighting in the middle of the boxing match was driving me crazy. I was like, what is happening right now? Anyway, first one's really good. First one I think is the first thing I ever really saw Michael B. Jordan in.
That's not true. You've seen The Wire.
No, sorry, I mean film. And the first film that I ever
Then you would
saw.
have seen Black Panther.
Was that before Creed?
It was
Wasn't it?
after. It was
That
after.
can't be
No,
right.
Creed,
Was it?
Creed,
Oh,
Creed was 2015. Black Panther was 2018. And then the second Black Panther, or third?
but
Is it the third? Last one?
There's only two Black
There's a
Panthers.
third Black Panther.
No, there's only
No,
two.
but going back to like Ryan Coogler though, I mean, as far as like at least with Fruitvale Station and then Black Panther, I mean that gave him the different tools he needed to make something like Sinners, where like Fruitvale Station's obviously like the smaller, low budget. I'm assuming it's an indie film, and then with Creed and Black Panther, bigger budgets and more special effects, and then even with in Sinners, which wasn't a true oneer, but the fact that he pulled that off in Creed with that first big match that he had in the beginning of the movie, he was building up to this point of his career.
Oh yeah,
And he
definitely.
had twice as many Michael Jordans as he had in all of his other movies.
Where do you guys think this one ranks among films with fake twins? Where does this compare to like The Parent Trap? Or I'm trying to think of other things that have that. I mean, I guess in Full House it's twins, but they don't appear on screen. It's not a fake twin situation.
The
twins.
best
No,
happy
no, no, no. I'm
twins.
saying fake twins. Like you've got one
Yeah, they're
actor
fake
playing.
twins though, but
No, no,
they're
no.
Arnold Schwarzenegger and DeVito
One
aren't
actor,
twins.
one actor playing two twins. Like
Are
on
are you asking us to rank it on how good a movie it is with twins or how good the twin effect is?
definitely one of the best movies that has fake twins in it. But I have to say, upon the second watch, as I was watching the way Michael B. Jordan was acting in the first couple of scenes, it was off. I was like, you can see that he's acting to a like a green screen or whatever it is they do. He's off a little bit. He doesn't have the chemistry because it's not a real
He actually
person.
wasn't though.
It was a mix of things.
But
Yeah, they
there's some
had like a
scenes.
double
There's
in
some.
for him, and then what they did is they put a rig on him with all these cameras all around. It's like almost like a halo, and so they would be able to shoot him as one twin while the double was the other one, and then they would superimpose onto the other.
Yeah, but you could tell
Yeah,
something. It was a little awkward, I
it
thought.
it was really funny looking. It was almost like an Elizabethan rough, if you can picture that, with cameras on
Yeah,
all around it. So he's like wearing a rig with a collar with about 20 cameras with essentially iPhones looking at him so they can get him from every angle.
yeah.
I was
And they
thinking
would
more
just
like
do
Wild
face
Wild
replay.
West when they had the explosives around their neck.
You talking about the Will Smith movie? You
Yes, the
watched
Will
that?
Smith movie.
Wow,
Yeah, of course I watched it.
with the giant spider that was supposed to be in Superman that ended up appearing in Wild Wild West. So
Exactly.
yeah, no, that
I
looked
mean,
like
this is
real.
when like Will Smith was in his prime for like summer movies, so of course I have to go see it.
The vampire showing up in the movie. It reminds me of some of Stephen King's early work. It would be like a really good book, and then all of a sudden something supernatural would happen, and you'd be like, "Oh, right, it's Stephen King." Like, I mean, it's still a good book, but this was a better book before the zombies showed up, or before whatever it was showed up. Because I definitely had the reaction. I was like, I've seen vampire movies before. I'm not that excited about this, but this is really done in a way I think that elevates the medium.
Yeah, the quality of it is just on another level. And I did think about that also, even before you brought it up, Dave. If
Mhm.
this was just a movie done at this level of production, but you take out all the vampires and you basically replace them with a KKK plot where they just come to the
Right.
foreground. This could be up for Best Picture. I mean,
Yeah.
that kind of quality.
Again, we should probably wait to talk about this, but the KKK plot seems like a different movie. And then that whole scene at the end where he shoots a bunch of them, I'm like, why is this happening after? Why is this anticlimactic thing happening after the whole vamp? It's just a different movie. And does anybody have any thoughts about what that's doing in the movie?
I do. So do you want to talk about it now or do you want to wait for Joe?
I think we should just go for it. I think,
I mean, because when I was like, especially after like subsequent viewings, like I felt like the thing that kind of struck me was that while the vampires are clearly evil and you're not supposed to be rooting for them, it's almost as if you're saying they're not the most evil thing in this world, especially in that part of the United States. So
uh,
it kind of makes it an interesting story where you see they're fighting each other. Vampires have their idea of like, no, this is what you need in order to like to succeed and with everything going around, especially with the Ku Klux Klan and everything else. But then in the end, to have them like bookmark it, or not bookmark, bookend it with the actual KKK coming in, and that's kind of his redemptive thing to be able to join his family, in the afterlife.
Yeah.
I have a slightly different one. My view is that the KKK and the vampires are just totally different axes of evil. You see a glimmer of this with Remick. He's a 1,000-year-old vampire or whatever, and he doesn't view race the same way that the KKK does.
Mm-hmm.
What he values is music and connecting to his past. And he's perfectly fine turning anybody,
Mm-hmm.
but that's what he cares about. And it comes through a couple of times when they have various different conversations with the vampires, and they sound like a free love commune, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
There's a conversation they all have where the vampires are all talking about the fellowship that they have, and come with us, and they're trying to convince him to come with them. And I was thinking, this is a metaphor for something, and I was thinking about it.
Well, they talk about heaven on earth. They're like, oh, we're gonna have heaven on earth.
But I think that the metaphor they're trying to say is it's a metaphor for the sort of paving over aspect of modern capitalism, where like almost just in front of the god of money, everybody's equal, which is there's a little bit of an attraction to that idea, right? It's like it would be great. We could get rid of all this nationalism and ethnic hatred and stuff, and we all just focus on money. But it's also kind of gross because you're kind of a vampire at the end of the day, if that's how you live your life. So I kind of think that's what he was saying with that, because I love how the vampires are kind of persuasive, if you know what I mean. Like they're not just like ridiculously evil. I really like the idea how these vampires focus on trying to. I was thinking of it in terms of like role playing statistics. It seems to me like vampires get this charisma bonus when they get converted, and they all have different ways of going about using that. When Stack gets converted, he tries to intimidate everybody. He tries to terrify everybody into letting him out, or he's going to stab them and kill them. And then the lady tries to use seduction, and then some of them are just kind of
cornbread,
bluffing their way. What's that? Cornbread's just kind of
cornbread.
bluffing his way back in, and each of
Yeah,
them, and obviously Cornbread as a vampire is a much more charming person than he was before. Like you could see the change in the personality after he becomes a
yeah.
vampire. I really like that concept. I also like the
I
vampires.
think he rolled a one though. I mean, to be
Yeah,
fair,
well,
when he comes
yeah.
in, he kind of he
No, you know
does
who
the
rolled a
best job
one
there.
is I don't know the Asian guy, that the husband.
Oh,
Oh,
when he
Yeah.
Bo.
when he comes back and tries to talk his way in and then just ignores the murder taking place next to him.
there's like cornbread like
I'm like
bunching away
everybody knows you're not a human. You didn't even look at the person being eaten next to you and you're trying to talk your way into the building. Like that's not how humans behave. So I was
Yeah,
watching,
yeah. Let's go,
huh.
baby.
Yeah,
Didn't work.
really, yeah, he's like, "Hey, let's go. I got the car running, Go ahead."
Circling back real quick though, I think there's another way to read that, the heaven on earth thing, because explicitly vampires retain the souls of the damned, and therefore
Hmm.
they cannot actually go to heaven.
Right.
So they have to believe in heaven on earth as opposed
Oh,
to.
man, that's interesting. I wanted to ask about that. So I don't understand, like at the end of the film, when Michael B. Jordan and Haley Steinfeld like show up again in 1990s Chicago, why weren't they destroyed when Remick dies?
Remick dying doesn't
Because
kill
they
the
ran away.
vampires. It was
Because
it
they,
was the vampires. They were in pain from what he was going through, and they were stuck outside. And then when the sun rose, that's what killed all the vampires.
okay, so it didn't actually, so destroying him didn't destroy them.
No,
It was just that
Right.
they
it was
suffered
being
the
outside.
damage. So why, but
right.
why didn't they suffer the damage that?
They weren't
That's
out there
right.
Oh, I
because
see.
They're
remember
They
at that
felt
point
his
frozen
they.
pain. So they were
inside.
like locked in place by the pain they were feeling.
Mhm.
So they couldn't
Right.
get out of the sun. Okay, got it.
My read is that Stack and Haley Steinfeld ran into the woods before the final confrontation
They seem to
because
have,
they
yeah.
had the encounter with Smoke, and Smoke elected not to kill Stack and told him to run away.
Okay. And I guess and probably they were locked in place by the pain, but they were hidden in out of the sunlight for some reason. And so they
Right.
weren't
Right, they were
destroyed.
in the woods, so
Yeah.
were able
That
to
confused me. I
get
was
back.
thinking about that a little bit. I was trying to figure that out. But then also,
Actually, somebody had mentioned this, that the other theory is that they were actually still inside of the sawmill, and that was
Mhm.
the other reason why Stack
Yeah,
stuck around, or sorry, Smoke stuck around, is because he wanted to make sure that the KKK didn't go in and kill them.
yeah, well, we didn't
So,
that
see
is
that.
actually really
right.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, but we didn't see that, did we?
Did you guys catch? Maybe it was the second watch through I had to do to catch on the differences between Smoke and Stack that they were trying to build up throughout the movie. And just as an example, so Smoke wears the blue cap, and it's a cap,
Hmm.
which signifies he's a working man. He's got a family. He's got the knife. He's the guy
Yeah.
who killed the father of what's his name, Sammy. He does the dirty work. And Stack has got the red fedora. and he's the
He's a
businessman.
little bit more
You
of a
get the
pimp.
idea.
I think he refers to himself as one at one point. So yeah,
Does
a
he?
little.
I
I
thought that
think
was
so.
also
Yeah,
supposed to represent who they worked for in Chicago. That Smoke was with the Irish and Stacks with the Italians because of the styles of clothes that they were wearing.
I didn't know
Huh.
about that.
That
I
That's
makes
didn't.
a lot of sense,
really
though.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
They did talk about the Irish beer. Other than that, I didn't hear the
Mhm.
Irish referred to in Chicago. But speaking of which, maybe let's start the next reel with introducing the drink. But we're all working on some drinks here. So,
Yeah.
although I guess you know what, it really doesn't take much to introduce it. We went with Irish beer because Irish beer is how they convinced Delta Slim to join them, which seems a bit much. I don't know why. Why is he so easy to persuade with beer? But I've got Guinness in a bottle, extra stout. What's everybody else got?
I'm drinking
I've
a
got
Wexford. Wexford.
Wexford. Okay, I've never heard of
Wexford.
that.
It's a cream ale.
Andrew, what do you got?
Picked up something called see here,
Sullivan's.
malting Irish ale.
Okay, how is it?
So open it before we start, or I'll open it now. So
You can do it either way. Yeah, it depends on how much time we're planning on talking about the drink. We just have drinks on this one. What is there to say about Irish beer? It's perfectly good. I've had many a Guinness in my life before, though I've never really bought it like in a bottle to drink at home, which is definitely
Hmm.
different than when you get it in a can and you get the whole whatever it is that shakes inside a can of Guinness. I think it's like a canister of
the
something.
marble, right?
It's,
Or
it's
I
not
probably
like
thought it
a,
was
is
supposed
just
to
like a.
be
it's not like
the extra.
CO2.
The nitrous?
Is
Yeah,
it
that's what
nitrous?
that
That's what I
was.
was gonna say. Is that actually what it is?
I thought so.
No, I thought there was a literal marble in there.
It's a
Have
ball.
I been
What it
wrong
is,
about this?
it's a little plastic ball
Hmm.
of nitrous that when it pops it open, it gives it a little bit more of the carbonation.
Yeah, Chris, I think you're thinking of the Japanese ramen drinks, so the
Yeah,
little
that's what I
marble.
was thinking with the marble. I was thinking of those.
Okay,
It's
so you're
okay.
gonna laugh at me, but I went with Innocent Gun aged in Irish whiskey barrels.
Okay, why would we laugh at you about that?
Well, because it's a Scottish drink, so I really went Scotch
Oh,
Irish.
oh, okay. All right. Yeah, well,
They're
Interestingly,
all the
that
same.
none of us actually got the type of beer that they were referring to in the movie.
what was referred to? Did they
Definitely.
tell us?
Lagers.
No, it was just Irish.
Very clearly a lager
Was it? Oh, I thought
versus
it just
all
said
of us
Irish
got
I don't
beer.
remember
ales.
them mentioning other than Irish beer and
They
Italian
they
wine.
they didn't, but when you actually look at it, it very much looked like a lager.
And in answer to your question, Dave, I think Delroy Lindo slash Delta Slim was particularly interested in because he couldn't get beer anywhere else. This was during Prohibition.
I hadn't even thought of that. They don't even really
Yep.
expressly mention prohibition. But yes, of course it would be. Because I don't think
They don't
prohibition.
mention it at all, but it explains why they drove the truck off into the woods to hide
Yeah.
it and all the rest of that. It's funny to me that they never bring up Prohibition whatsoever, but
No,
it's
they don't
there.
mention it. I sort of forgot it as a setting detail. trying to say what year did prohibition actually end? It's after this. I know that much, but 1933. So it's got 1 year left at the time of this film.
Our origin is still kind of muddy because we know Capone was arrested in 32, but we don't know when. So we just know it's before that. So it could be 29 or something.
Or potentially not. I mean, it could have been at the end of the run of Capone, and that's why they were able to make it back.
In the article describing the film, it says 32.
Have we discussed like the big transition scene between the first and the second half?
What would you say is the moment when the big transition happens?
When Sammy starts playing his instruments and it looks like the whole place burns down and Remick walks up and you have the Afrofuturism.
When Preacher Boy starts singing, basically like we were saying, the lines between the past and the present start blurring, and you actually see the place burn down. Even though that doesn't end up happening, does it? Does the juke joint burn down? No, right?
Not during that night at least.
That because I was thinking that when I saw it the second time, I was like, oh, does it burn down? And that's why they're seeing that as a preview of the future. But maybe it blurs the lines of the future, and it's not necessarily something that happens, but it's something that could happen.
But like one thing I didn't catch on, and it took me the second period to notice, like they there was a fire, and you know, like I'm sure there's a whole section of the sawmill that burned down.
There's got to be. She
But
throws
when
that Molotov cocktail and hits
right,
the inside of the building. So
but then when the KKK arrive and then they find all the doors are locked, they were on I think they were saying they were on the back side of the building, and it was all metal side and like metal doors and everything else. So they told the guy to like go around to the front to see where they are. So I guess that was the front of the juke joint, and that's the only part that got any sort of damage. But at the same time, it's amazing that the fire went out, that didn't continue burning, because there's no way
yeah,
that would have gone out on its own.
yeah, I don't know really know what happened there, but yeah, that moment when the movie, well, because it's supernatural in more than one way, right? Because apparently he has supernatural powers too, Preacher Boy. Like his music is of some kind of supernatural level. That's why it attracts the vampires.
Yeah. I
Right.
mean, we get that whole intro at the top of the movie about how, some people have
Right.
the gift to, to bridge spirits and, bridge history in the future. It's a very bardic thing, which again also, ties back into Remic's whole deal, which
Uh-huh.
I don't know if right now is the time to
Would you
get into
say
it, but there's
he's
a lot to
also
talk about it.
would you say he's also a griot? Is that like what they're saying? It's essentially the same. Like he's whatever that Irish word they use for the
Mhm.
same thing is. Is that what he's supposed to have been?
I mean, maybe he wasn't when he was alive. I didn't even consider
That's
that,
what
but
I was thinking. I
certainly,
was
certainly,
thinking,
but certainly not now. Certainly, like what he has is almost explicitly just like a pale imitation of it.
right. Yeah.
He can force people into community, but he can't actually. He bridges souls after a fashion, but certainly
Hmm.
not in a sharing way. Like he's like there's it's not a community. He's definitely on top, whatever structure he's got.
Sorry, I think his whole deal is that he wants to use Sammy as a bridge to connect to people from his past that are no longer with him.
Huh.
100%. Yeah.
Oh, you
Yeah.
think so?
So that's what I was going to say. Like, it seemed like it's possible that you're right, that he did have that connection when he was alive, and then when he became a vampire, he lost that, and that's why he has that connection to Sammy. That like he senses that ability, and he wants that back. So he wants to take that from Sammy.
I mean, even if
Well,
that wasn't his gift, he definitely, he's definitely aware of what Sammy can do, and he wants it.
yeah. Well, he seems to be the musician though, right? Because he turns that couple that
Hmm.
lives in the shack, he turns them, and then once he turns them, all three of them are musicians. So you would think it's his ability to play that they got from him, or at least that's kind of how I saw it when I thought it. I thought a lot of different things the second time I watched this. I definitely was processing differently. We were talking earlier about how it's like this one movie that's just kind of like a Mississippi Delta in the 30s movie, which was a perfectly good, entertaining, and beautiful film. And
I
then
think
it
that was
turns,
Chris's favorite part.
I don't know if it's, I mean, to be honest, the second time I watched it, I thought the supernatural stuff was better than I thought the first time. The first time I thought the transition was kind of jarring, and then I was kind of like, I've seen this movie before. But when
Yeah,
I
it's called
watched
From
it,
Dusk Till Dawn.
exactly. Yeah, we talk exactly. Yeah. Except this is a better, this is better than From Dusk Till Dawn. I mean,
Oh,
even
Yeah,
just
100%.
action and vampire fighting is better than what I recall of From Dusk Till Dawn. And then we were talking about who's supernatural. Right. Okay, so obviously Preacher Boy's got some kind of supernatural and the vampires, but actually Annie turns out to be supernatural too, right?
Oh
She
yeah,
must
yeah. She's a witchy woman. She's a
it's a
medicine
little
woman.
blurry at first. You're just like, oh, this is some woman that thinks she's a witch. But then when you find out this is actually how this world operates, you're like, okay, she has magic powers. Like
It's
Well, or
some,
at
funny you
least she,
mentioned blurry because that's exactly what happens to Smoke. In certain moments, looking at her, as she's speaking, things go out of focus with him, and then like if he gets back into focus. So there is definitely something implied with her like supernatural abilities.
yeah. Well,
although
I think
although it's
she puts that the magic charm on him, and that's why I'm getting my Smoke and my Stack mixed up. But when
yeah.
Stack tries to kill Smoke, he can't because he's got that charm on him. So her charm actually works to
I
protect.
thought I thought he didn't have the charm at that point. I thought he gave it back to her when they reunited. I thought that was
But
like a
but
brother
then
to
he was
brother.
wearing it again.
But then
He
he
was
was
wearing
wearing
it
it
Mm.
again.
again. He
Yeah,
he,
I think
he
she like
handed it back. No,
refreshed
no,
it.
he hands it back to her when he goes to her little
in the shop.
store,
In the
and then
shop.
she takes it and she refills it with like
Mm.
new
Hmm.
items. It's like she like
Okay.
refills the magical potion or whatever it is.
The
The
Mojo bag.
what's
Yeah.
the word I'm looking. Actually, honestly, one of the best words is fetish. But God, I really don't want to
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
on that. That's a
Yeah.
whole.
That's a word we've lost.
Yeah, exactly.
doesn't he take it off again right before he fights the KKK?
He
He
does.
Yes.
does. He does. He takes it off before
Okay.
he fights the KKK because he wants to die. That's pretty much like a suicide. We talked about that a little bit earlier, Joe. I kind of don't get what that I mean it's not like it's not part of the story, but it does seem like a different movie. The part where he fights the KKK seems to have no connection. But Andrew brought up the point that he may have been defending Stack and what is the white girl's name?
Mary.
Mary.
Stack and Mary may be hiding in the juke joint still when the KKK come. That's why they survive at the end of the movie. They don't get killed like the rest of the vampires.
Yeah, they kind of have to be. Like
Yeah,
that's the
I
only
think
place they
so.
could be to not just get burned up.
So it definitely made it seem more relevant to the rest of the movie than originally. I kind of was just like, oh, this is just like a little revenge fantasy that happens at the end of the movie, and it's a fun action sequence, but it doesn't really have terribly much to do with the rest of the plot.
Am I imagining things, or did they show a shot of Mary running away into the woods?
I thought they did. Yeah,
I do.
a frame of that, but I think that was her going back. She must have somehow gone back into the sawmill.
There's a lot going on in the scenes in this movie. Upon watching it the second time, I understood a lot more that was going on there, and I like that. It's a fun thing to watch. There's definitely things you miss the first time, or even forget after watching it a second time.
On a slightly different take here on this with the clan and the vampires, they're kind of I felt as though they're kind of portraying the differences between these different types of evil. And you have the clan who are just this inherently evil force that existed and can sadly probably continues to exist. And then you have these vampires, these supernatural forces that are fighting not only each other, but they're putting so much in on the culture that's there, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
It does because you saw like the present day 90s vampire in a Cosby shirt.
That's right.
Mhm.
Yes, it was exactly the Cosby shirt. And I felt like Stax, right? Because Stax gave in to this urge for commodification of himself and money. It was very much a 90s to today commercialization of hip hop and music, right? And very much that whole element, right? So going from how music was very entrenched in the cultural elements of black culture, turning into the blues being taken over by white people using folk and blues, turning into then in the late to mid 80s, 90s to today, just nothing but money. And it's all
Yeah.
about B's and H's.
Oh, I know what that stands for. So I think some people see the movie as like a metaphor for white people kind of stealing black music. Like that's the vampirism is like they're attracted to the music, they like the music, and then they just consume it and commodify it. I didn't really see that when I watched the movie, if I'm being honest. Some
Hmm.
other people
Hmm.
told me that, and I don't
I
think
did
it's
see
like
that.
it's not wrong. I don't think it's like the wrong interpretation, but it isn't what I took from the first viewing.
How do those same people explain the use of Irish folk music in
I
the movie?
totally.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot to be said because actually I think a lot of the scholarship on American music will show that it's far more collaborative than that. That there's actually quite a bit of give and take between things like Irish folk music and what rock and roll became and the roots music and things like that. And so I didn't really see the movie that way. I saw the movie as making just a comment about the blurring of American music, but I don't know what the director intended, so I can't say those people are wrong. I'd maybe have to have a conversation with the director before I
I
judge. Because the vampirism seems right, right? Like the being attracted to the beautiful music and then trying to drain it of its life. But then again, I said the vampires are a metaphor for capitalism more for consumerism and money, and not so much white people specifically, but like sort of just the big money America, like draining the life out of everything and paving over differences between people and stuff. So I don't know. How do we pronounce griot, by the way? I always said griot. Is that wrong?
It's one of the many words I've only ever read.
Yeah, me too. And I think I just assumed it had some kind of a French connotation, so I said griot. But
The hard T in the movie. Basically.
It is
One
French,
thing
so
for
the
me
T is
that
probably silent.
like I remember this from the very first viewing, and I don't know if this is like part of my Catholic upbringing and being Korean and everything. Is that I focused a lot more on whether it's religion or just some other power that subjugates another. Like the Irish, like was it what's his name again?
Remick,
Remick was talking
he
about like
refers to it, yeah.
the Catholics and like how they like forced him to learn their religion and how like
Mhm.
the Our Father was still like something that he was fond of, but still it's a tainted memory for him,
Hmm.
and how it's like similar to like what happened to the slaves when they came to America.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I think they were trying to draw a parallel between what happened to the Irish in like 400 AD and sort of what happened
Sorry, hang on. My
to
audio.
Native Americans in America, and it's everybody being kind of co-opted and dragged into this system.
I think there are a lot of those parallels. I mean, I don't think any of us are wrong in our
No,
interpretation of any of those parallels.
no, yeah.
I think they were all present, and we could probably make an argument for all of them.
That's why I wanted to give credit to the interpretation of black music getting co-opted being the metaphor, because I don't think it's wrong. It's not just not what I took away from the film when I saw it the first time, but
Yeah, I want to mention that as well. Yeah, because there is a whole lot going on with Remick specifically, and with like the depiction of vampirism in this movie. So that like there like that's part of what makes it kind of an interesting character. That like there's just a stew of possible readings in this guy. Like I really should have done more homework on this particular part. But there are but like in
you're talking about
discussion.
Remick specifically.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
and yeah, and due to the fact that he's such an intrusive element in this movie, like he brings a lot of different readings as to as to what exactly he represents as a threat. Discussions around this movie, it's been suggested that like he himself is not a reliable narrator, because I should have done I should have chased down the facts a bit more. But in discussions around this movie, I've heard people saying that like yeah, that like his talks about like the Christianization of Ireland, like apparently that like the time frame doesn't match up with other things he says, and like the big song he sings, "The Rocky Road to Dublin," is like not that old. Like, that's
I was
not that
gonna
old a
say
song
that.
either. Yeah,
I was like, that sounds like Irish music from like the early 20th century. Like
yeah, yeah. So
there's things going on in that song that are not native to Ireland before Christianization of Ireland. I mean, that's
exactly,
ridiculous. It's
yeah.
1500 years after that. Yeah. So
Yeah, and on a plot level, I think this ties into, and we've talked about this off mic before, but I'm not sure if it came up in the podcast, that Remick himself is an interesting example of like the seductive charisma of the vampire in a completely non-sexual way, and the fact
mhm.
that in particular like his attack method seems to be seems to be mimicry, like again when he
Uh-huh.
meets a clan, and a couple, he goes in, he sizes up with her about immediately and pitches himself as like a fellow white, like under threat from the
Yeah.
from the non-whites,
So
and
maybe
then
he's
he
just full of it the whole time, and
exactly, yeah,
yeah,
he
yeah,
like
yeah,
he
totally.
That ties directly into his Mockingbird song.
The
mm-hmm.
Pick Poor Robin Clean, that one.
Yes, oh yeah, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How so?
Well, he's a mockingbird. He's just saying whatever it takes to get
Oh, did they
in the
say something
door.
about a
And
mockingbird in that song?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
also, real
Totally.
quick, I
Mm-hmm.
I did read a couple of interviews with Ryan Coogler, and apparently the background on a lot of this is that his uncle was a big fan of blues music, and particularly Chicago blues music. And it
Hmm.
wasn't until after his uncle's passing that he started to listen to
Mm.
it, really enjoyed it. And then the Irish influence is because his family just really likes Irish folk music. And
Okay.
that's not to say you can't have a valid reading of this in other ways, but it was
With
original.
like the Chinese characters as well. That apparently, I think it was his father-in-law found out that he has like some connection to Chinese Delta,
Mm.
and so he wanted to make sure that was included. And that's when he brought in a Chinese cultural consultant to like help with those parts of it.
That was one of the things that I thought of when people commenting on like the scene, right? Like the big shot with the panning and all the different people representing different parts of African American music. And it's like there's Chinese dancers and Chinese
Mhm.
opera
Mm-hmm.
performers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not just about Africa. Whatever he's saying there is not just about African music. I think textually he's putting other things in there. And so it's saying something else, and I don't know if I got it on this reading. You can't see it on the tiny little screen. You cannot interpret that scene the way that you could in theater. And I really missed seeing it again in the theater. But
Mm-hmm.
My read on that is that the people listening to the music are transported back to their ancestral
yeah, I agree.
heritage.
I agree.
And that's why he has value to Remick. Because if he is in there listening to the music, he could commune with the people that he used to know.
But also they've said that these griots attract evil in that way too. So
Yeah.
there's also that. But yeah, that maybe that's why he's really attracted to it. I don't know. It's interesting to think about.
Right, yeah.
Um,
I mean, and again, this goes back to Remick, to Remick's method of attack, because yeah, that scene does show like explicitly that like it's a cross-cultural connection, that
mhm.
he brings everyone at the at the site into who hears him into community,
Almost
and
everybody
that's what Remick explicitly tries to like he pitches like again he pitches himself as like a lost soul like searching for community, and like
Right.
and again, and even after the secret's out, he does still kind of present that way, but I feel like his cover story was at least that was legitimate as well.
One thing that I thought about, and we haven't mentioned them before, or we haven't mentioned them much in talking about this, is the Choctaw vampire hunters. So to me, the existence of those guys argues that this is not an Irish creature. This is some creature from North America, right? Because the people that are the most experienced with dealing with them are the Native Americans. So it says to me that maybe he's saying that like this is some indigenous North American creature, this vampire, and so that's why their experience at hunting him in some way. I hadn't really thought it through. It just occurred to me on the fly right now.
The only thing that a hole in that one is that I heard that they did some sort of tie-in with Spotify, which unfortunately I don't have a Spotify account anymore,
Okay,
where they
I do.
had like some extra media type stuff with like including news articles that sort of did almost like a Nosferatu type thing about like something happening with a ship that came from Ireland to North America and all this other stuff like that. So I think there is supposed to be a definitive like Remick came from Ireland. So
Okay.
what his actual
Well,
background
he
is,
may have. He may have come from Ireland. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying whatever turned him may have been North
Mm.
American.
no, but that's the thing. I think he was
He was
probably
already
turned
a vampire before he came. Okay.
right.
Well, I mean, also,
It,
to be honest, the stuff that's in like extra media is not really the same canon, I think, as the film, but it's maybe
You
not
say
the
so,
same.
yeah.
I
As a long-term Star Wars apocrypha
Yeah.
studier, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I
yeah.
I
also,
did a little research into that too, actually. And Ireland is just a funny place. Ireland is the place that started the apartheid boycott on South Africa, and it is also has kind of a pretty deep tie to the Choctaw Nation because when Ireland was going through the famine,
Famine.
the Native Americans sent a lot of support their way, and there are actually statues of Native Americans in Ireland.
Hmm.
And when certain Native American reservations were hit badly by COVID, Ireland sent quite a bit of support.
There was a podcast I listened to that was mentioning that, but it's also something to understand about those southeastern tribes, like the Seminole, the Choctaw, the Cherokee, is that they're really like the modern members of that tribe are very mixed, like ethnically.
Hmm.
So there's going to be people
Well,
that
the whole
look
Trail
like
of Tears, yeah.
most of the people on the Trail of Tears would have, a lot of them would have looked like they were white people if you saw them, or black, or all kinds of different mixed, because they're just those tribes were in contact with everybody else for so long that there's just a lot
That's
of.
actually why they helped out with the potato famine
I could see
because
that.
they
Yeah,
were
exactly. I
familiar
could see that.
with
So that's a
starvation and
whole
deprivation.
other interesting. I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was just a guess I was making about the Choctaw. Yeah, they obviously could have gotten to be vampire hunters over here after Europeans came too. So I don't
I
know.
remember the first time we saw the movie, I thought for sure they were going to come back in the third act.
Yeah, right. Like show up and save everybody at the last minute or something. Yeah. I thought it was kind of cool to just have them show up and be like this interesting flavor in the film, like just kind of a neat little episode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh,
apparently
yeah.
those guys are
Yeah.
smart enough to get out of Dodge when the sun goes down, so they're not going to show up at the at sawmill when the sun's not out yet.
Yeah, they
No.
did their best.
Yeah, you would
Um,
think the first thing vampire hunters would learn to do is not attack at night.
but yeah, there's so much sequel. There's so much grist for like spin-offs, between that, the final scene, and then just
Yeah.
like whatever was, even like backstory for Remick. There are a lot of
Whatever
ways it could
whatever
go.
Stack and Mary got up to in the
Hmm
70
hmm
years after the
Yeah,
movie, it's pretty
it's just
interesting
wide
too.
open,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that one day, like even if not immediately, like probably after Ryan Coogler gets the rights, he'll definitely expand on that.
So this is one thing that bugged me the first time I saw the movie. I thought that I had been like healed of this question, and then I realized no, it bugs me that Annie knows so much about vampires
Hmm.
because they're not really in 1932, they're not really in the public consciousness that I mean, I guess the book Dracula
Yeah,
exists,
the book Dracula existed by
but
that
not the
point.
film, and I mean, I don't think the film Dracula has been created at this point. Unless it's late 20s. Well,
Nosferatu. Yeah,
Nosferatu existed.
yeah.
I just thought it
Well,
was.
and I think, and initially she was thinking that it was a hate,
I know, which
right?
is what I really liked. The second time I watched it, I was watching because she picks up when Cornbread tries to get back in, and
Hmm.
she's like, "Why do you need to be invited back in this time?" Because she can tell something's wrong with him, and
Hmm.
she knows about haints, right? So she knows there's always rules for dealing with these kinds of creatures. So it was kind of fun. I was thinking, oh, she's like working on the fly, trying to figure out, oh, there must be a rule you have to invite them in. But
Hey,
then she
quick
just
fact check.
knows. She just knows everything about vampires that we all know all of a sudden. I was like, oh, that's not as fun. I thought that'd be more interesting if she was learning it, like figuring it out. But
Well, quick fact check. So, if Wikipedia is to be believed, Sinners takes place in 1932,
right.
and Lugosi's Dracula was the previous year.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. So it's right about the same time. So some of these things would have been. But then again, what are Dracula's powers? Do we know? I'm trying to. It's not that obvious which of the
I
things.
appreciated that she figured out they were vampires this time because they were affected by garlic.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good.
I was willing to give it like just the kind of conceit to the fact that you have the Choctaw that clearly knew something about vampires, and then Annie knew something about vampires. So it's like I just made the assumption, okay, in this world, whoever is connected to the supernatural it's just something they know. Maybe even the term is just shared amongst them, but just like we don't have to worry about getting into like why does she know the exact specific rules about vampires? And so for me, I was willing to just let that go because it made the film more enjoyable.
That's true, because if they exist for real, then she would just know from her.
Then she might just know about them because she knows about them. Yeah, it's true. But I kind of was having fun with the idea that she was figuring it out on the fly. Because I know if I ran into vampires, like in my world, I would have to try to figure out which version of them I was dealing with, if you know what I mean. Because it's not all the same rules for every single vampire that's ever been in a movie. There's some of them you can kill with various things. I kind of liked how these vampires are like a little bit stronger than people in a fight, but you can kind of handle them in they're not like the ones that just pick you up and throw you through the roof right away.
You wouldn't have to sit down and interview a vampire, is what you're saying.
No, you would not have to interview a vampire. Yeah, exactly. Who's everybody's favorite character?
Okay, so I actually have this down on my sheet.
Okay.
But my question is, who's everyone's second favorite character? Because I figured everyone would pick Michael B. Jordan.
Who? Oh, Michael B. I don't know if Michael B. Jordan's my favorite character. There's a lot of good ones.
Okay, well, so Stack or Smoke?
Well, it's got to be Smoke. Okay. I mean, I like Smoke better because he's nicer. Like, he just seems like a nicer guy. But I don't know.
Maybe who's everybody's favorite character, excluding Michael B. Jordan played roles?
Yeah, non-Michael B. Jordan category. I don't know. I was thinking about that. There's some good ones. That's kind of.
If I go with Remick, is that bad?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good answer.
No, he's a fascinating character. I will say that Grace, the shopkeeper wife, like she definitely like won my heart over with how hardcore she was when the vampires came in.
You didn't kind of feel like where the heck did that come from at the that kind of seemed a little like she's stabbing a vampire to death and lighting herself on fire.
I mean, she starts putting together a freaking Molotov cocktail out of it.
She was pissed. Her husband was fucking dead. She was on that revenge tip.
Yeah, but she turned into like a howling banshee. I was a little like, whoa, what the heck is going on?
Yeah,
here?
But I mean, Dave, you should understand that. Like, when a mother is like her husband was already like basically killed and her daughter's being threatened. It's like
they threatened. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and that's the thing actually I was going to ask you guys at some point that like I've heard a lot of people just like, what the hell's her problem? What was she thinking? And everything. It's like she wasn't thinking. Like for my whole thing is like as I was watching, it's like I totally sympathized with her reaction and her actions. Even to the point of like where she just jumped onto the vampire bow and just killed him and immolated herself at the same time.
Yeah,
but I've heard so many people
that eliminates the threat.
Yeah, but I've heard so many people say like, "Oh no, it's like that was so wrong of her to do that." It's like it's not about right or wrong; it's about what her character was going through in that moment.
She invites the damn vampires in. She didn't need to do that.
Yeah, she didn't.
So she can. Kill
No, she did because that way.
She did. Yeah, she just come in. And, yeah, she says, "Yeah, like come and get me."
Yeah. Oh, okay.
My bad.
Well, but she takes out
melon farmer.
She takes out her husband, goes up with him, right? So she's going through.
Oh my God, was that him that she was stabbing?
Yeah.
I didn't even pick up on that.
Yeah,
I didn't even know who she was killing. Okay,
I mean, it makes sense in that context.
That's better. Okay, that's better. That's pretty much what he does with Annie when he has to kill her, right? It's the same thing.
Also, just from a larger context, I love how much you can pick about these characters from contextual clues as you're watching the movie as well. Mm-hmm. So she and her husband own not one, but two different stores in town across the streets from each other.
Yeah.
Which is emphasized by her walk. And because they're Chinese, they can sell both to the African-American population and to the white population. Mm-hmm. But they have to have two separate stores because of segregation. And
did you not wonder if that was accurate, though? Like, would white people in the American South in the 30s have bought from Asians?
Yes, and that's actually one of the things
they wouldn't have had the. Okay, I was thinking it might have been the rules might have been because I know, like in New Mexico, the town that I lived in had one side of the street where you could see it was where the Mexicans lived, and the other side of the street was where the whites lived back in the day. Like it was segregated the way an American South town would have been segregated between black and white. And I was really kind of surprised to see that.
The Chinese cultural consultant, she actually did like some sort of like documentary or like web documentary about the Chinese Delta, and so they were talking about how that was completely how it was. And early on, they would have two different storefronts, so they could sell to the blacks and sell to the whites, and then eventually, that just became like they became like that version of the model minority in that town. So like everyone could go to them, but at the same time, they were still excluded as being the others because they were the Chinese. And also, that was the things like watching the movie and hearing that accent threw me just because it's like there's only one other time in my life where I've seen somebody Asian with a deep Southern accent, and so it was just kind of like wild to hear that. But that again would have
There was
been.
that one comedian for a while there that was an Asian
Oh
guy
yeah,
that
yeah,
had
that's
that
right.
had a Southern accent. It was part of his gig. I can't remember what his name was, but
Yeah, I can't remember either.
Yeah,
But he
I
was
know who you're talking
from
about. Yeah, I don't
Texas.
remember his name. Yeah, Tyson did.
Yeah, but it
yeah.
was just interesting though, because like that's the other thing too, is like watching it a second time around, even just the way the stores were set up and the goods that they would sell, and just the way that it was like decorated and everything was different from the black side of the street and the white side of the street,
Mhm.
and also just the like
Well, it's
caught
all
on
done in
more.
one camera pan as she goes across the street too.
Yeah,
It's one of those great tracking shots that he
yeah.
does. Like it was really well done.
Yeah, and also just the fact that she like you can hear like the white customers talking about like now they're shooting each other across the street and like all this like little commentary in the background that you wouldn't catch on a normal viewing, but just the second time around, I could kind of like
Yeah, they
key
were
in a
saying
little bit.
something about like I don't have anything against the coloreds or something like that. Like when they
Yeah.
walked in, yeah, there's some chit chat going on that's like that. Did anybody else think that Haley Stein is it Steinfeld? Am I getting the
Mhm.
name right?
I
Haley,
think
did
so.
anybody else think she's a little bit of a weak link in the
I
movie?
actually think
No.
she was one of my favorite characters, at least
Really? Okay.
pre-vampire.
I
I was
liked
going
her.
to say the same. I thought she brought something that I had not seen from her before as an actor, and
I mean,
she
I
was
think
killing
she's
it.
really good. I really loved her in True Grit, even when she was like a little kid. The one with Hawkeye, I can't remember which character she plays. Hawkeye's like sidekick girl, but she was really good in that. I liked her better once they get to the juke joint. I thought she's a lot more interesting as a character at that point. But at first, I was a little thrown off by the accent's not great. And I was just kind of honestly, when they introduced each character, I kind of didn't like them as much. I was saying before, Joe, I thought the twin thing was awkward in the first couple of scenes. Like you could tell he's acting to like technology a little bit. He's a little off in
Mm.
his acting beats, like in the first couple of scenes. That's literally the only
I think
complaint.
I have a few very minor complaints about the movie. The only
Okay.
technical complaint I have is when they're introduced, when they drag on the cigarette and blow out the smoke, it blows different ways for both of them.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, that technical detail, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, Old Sammy, the finale, he's wearing a blue cap,
Okay.
which is what Smoke was wearing. I noticed that this time through. I didn't notice it the first time. I love that little detail. He is played by a guy named Buddy Guy, who won 8 Grammys, old-time Chicago blues singer. He is not an actor,
Mm-hmm.
nominally. I mean, that's one minor complaint.
Impression
He's been
that
in
he was
other
a
movies.
musician that had been brought into the film and
Yeah, he
Absolutely.
would.
didn't really seem.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was kind of stunt casting, and I believe that like
Yeah.
he worked
Yeah.
on the soundtrack as well.
He did work on the soundtrack. I've seen him in other stuff. He's been in. He was in that documentary, Idiocracy.
We haven't talked terribly much about it, but the soundtrack is obviously phenomenal. Like throughout this
Yeah.
movie, like almost every piece of music in it is really well chosen and more or less original. I don't think they're playing a lot of stuff that is from something else, right? These are
I
pretty
thought
much
they
all
were
original
all
pieces.
like I don't know if to call them standards, but like basically.
Well, the Irish stuff is. I guess that's true.
No, even the
Maybe,
blues music. I think they all came
maybe I
from.
don't know. Yeah, could
I think
be.
The other interesting thing I found out while looking at the interviews is a lot of these musical scenes were shot on set, on scene. They
Mhm.
have a few that are done off of it, but a lot of the big set pieces were actually played on scene, on set.
It was interesting though too because like even though Delroy Lindo he was miming music, playing the music, so like the piano and the harmonica, he didn't really learn how. I think they had like other musicians there with him, so you can just follow their movements so that make sure it's looked at least accurate. But with Miles Caton, the kid learned how to play guitar. Like he didn't play guitar before this movie, and the fact that he was playing blues guitar with the slide and doing all the actual guitar playing on the set for the camera and everything was just like amazing to find out that this kid is just that naturally talented to be able to pull that off.
Was he lip
Yeah, the
syncing
guy.
parts of that?
No, that's his voice.
See, we've talked about this before where when in a film, when you have to show somebody doing something that's supposed to be so amazing within the film, then you have to actually make the thing be amazing. Do you know what I'm saying?
No,
Like
yeah. There's
like the
yeah,
whole
like,
point of that scene is this blues song is so phenomenal that it opens a rift between space and time and past and present. And I'm like, it's a good song, but it's a really tall order to try to like create something that's like transcendent. The one I always think about is in the second Bill and Ted film when they come back to the present and they're supposed to play a song that like unites humanity and it's just like some crappy Van Halen song. It's like what? So what with that?
Well, that's why it was also cool that during that scene where he's driving with Stack, and Stack tells him like pull out the guitar and start playing for me, and he starts singing "Traveling." Allegedly, I think this is what I've heard. That was actually Michael B. Jordan's first time hearing him play and sing, And so that reaction, going like, whoa, just like and hollering, that was like his legitimate reaction.
That's a great moment.
That was
I like
amazing. Yeah.
That's a really good scene. Do you think Joe's going to use intimidation or bluff or deception? What's he going with? I'm going to let him in.
Seduction.
Seduction. That's definitely the best option, I think. Yeah.
Does he have a high charisma? How is his charisma?
How high is Joe's charisma?
It's pretty high. I think it's actually pretty high.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's a pretty good question. But Joe, did you hear that? We decided you have a high charisma. That's why we let you into the room.
High enough charisma to
you
get
get that vampire bonus to get yourself in. So
I'll take it.
Well, I didn't want you in, but it only takes one person to invite you. So
that's right.
True.
Come on in.
Well, now you got to beat yourself twice.
Yeah. Well.
Wait, you got beat the first time though, right?
No, it was Joe. It's always
Joe the first time.
Always Joe. Yeah. I have a bleep wave file that I keep around for when Joe's on the pod. So
did you title it Joe Bleeps?
Yeah. No, I've had to use it on Clint too.
Did everybody do the favorite characters?
I don't think I explicitly did.
Nobody mentioned
My
Delta
favorite character
Slim. I think Delta Slim is maybe the one that I think is. I really just kind of, it's even for me. I really think each character has their own little nuggets that I like. I think people have forgotten the sort of archetypal, like, hard drinking, dangerous blues man archetype. I think that's really cool how he displays that. Like, he's like kind of a dangerous, sketchy dude. And I love that.
My only issue with Delta Slim is that I think that as much as I do like the movie overall, there are these tone shifts sometimes with the humor with Delta Slim that's like, I didn't need a couple of the jokes. Well, okay, so I had a slight issue with, I understand now you're saying it's a
But I think the tone shift for a blues guy is kind of the point, right? Because there's that part, he tells that story, they pass the chain gang, and he tells that story about his buddy that had the money and got grabbed by the Klan and murdered, and he's quiet for like half a second and then goes into playing music. And I think that's kind of what the character's supposed to be like, because he's supposed to be like, masking all this pain with like art and humor and drinking and like all kinds of other. It's the tonal shift is on purpose. In other words, like
I mean those I get, but I think there was like I wish I remembered. I should have written it down. There was a joke that he did, or there was supposed to be more that was humorous with him, and all the other characters looking at him like, what the hell? Like, it was just.
Was it when he crapped his pants?
Yeah, that one. That one really bothered me.
Yeah.
I don't think he's kidding.
That one seemed a little off.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of that.
Bringing up Delta Slim real quick, I went to the old trusty inflation calculator. $40 a night in 1932, adjusted for inflation in 2025 dollars, is $945.
I was going to say it's probably about $1,000. Yeah, that's a lot of money. You could buy a lot with $40 in 1932, 100%. So I believe
with the money is getting the alcohol. That's why what sold him was the all the beer he could drink that night.
And also kind of the comment, like I said, like the guy getting killed for having the money, and kind of the comment on why he's a hard drinking blues man who lives for today is kind of because that's what it's like being a black man in the South in the 30s. It's like you can't hang on to money. You can't get ahead in life. You might as well just drink and enjoy yourself. It's kind of I guess, an argument for why he's like that. I believe we had a couple people that wanted to get some factoids in on the ground game before we move on to the biggest surprise. So I know Chris has his hand raised, and I think Andrew had said something. Joe, you've got to have a factoid. You must.
Mine's going to be real quick. It's going to be the scene where you have the life-changing music was not in the original script. It was brought in during the read-throughs.
You mean the scene? What I refer to as
the scene
in the film. Oh, that wasn't in the movie. Yeah, that would be. It's apparently a very divisive scene, by the way. Apparently, a lot of people watch this movie and they do not like that scene.
Really? And everyone I know is moved by that scene. I mean, it was just like we all, maybe it's just the people that are around me, but just we love that it took you out of it, and that kind of really emphasized. I think
you described why it's divisive for people. I think taking people out of it is the problem. And it does kind of take you out of it a little bit, right? It's different than the rest of the movie. That's interesting that wasn't in there, because it does kind of seem like it's transplanted from something else. It doesn't really 100% seem part of the narrative. Although I don't know, the thing about it being the griot and bringing it into the future, and that did make sense to me. I don't know. I like that scene.
I always thought that it was, and I thought I had heard that it was a legitimate oneer through the entire sequence. But it turns out that they couldn't do it as a oneer, not because that they didn't want to, but because they were shooting it all in IMAX.
Andrew, what is the word you're saying?
Oneer, like a one take.
Yeah, done in one.
Okay. Yeah, done in one take.
I thought you were like, this movie's a real oneer. Like, I don't know. It's like, why
it's my pronunciation of winner.
Yeah.
But that because they're shooting that in IMAX, I guess apparently you can only shoot like a minute and a half to like 2 minutes or something, like really short period of time.
Yeah.
So
they density decided, of information, you mean? Like it's hard to the
way that the film is, like the reels and the number, the frame rate of it all and everything. So they actually had to break that up into 3 days of shooting, which also could play into the budget issues and everything else.
That's kind of similar to what Chris was talking about. That's probably your biggest surprise, right, Chris? Was the fact that that was not originally part of the film?
No.
No. Okay. All right. Well, let's go. Get them locked and loaded. Let's do our biggest surprises, everybody.
Well, Joe, did you have something you wanted to say about the mobs and everything, or?
Oh, I just wanted to make sure that like they hadn't been completely skipped over. But again, there's just so much to chew on in this movie. We don't
Mhm.
it would be impossible to talk about all of it, at least in our time slot.
I don't know if I had a big surprise. I mean, maybe the amount of times that oral sex is mentioned in this movie, really, like every single character is talking about it. I mean,
That is
that's
pretty surprising.
that's a little shocking. Chris, it sounded like you had something.
I had two things.
Mhm.
One of them was going to be a brief, punchy little surprise.
Okay.
Because as Joe knows, sitting next to me, the snake in the back of the truck was literally the biggest surprise. It just about jumped out of my seat. I forgot I was watching a horror movie, right?
Yeah.
Tying into what you just said, we've talked a little bit about how this is very similar to Dusk Till Dawn and the Tarantino influence.
Uh-huh.
Well, Tarantino is known for a certain
Word.
The feet.
pedo predilection, not that type of pedo,
Speaking of fetishes,
the other type. But I thought, similar to your fixation, that Ryan Coogler might be expressing a certain predilection of his own in this movie.
oh yeah,
Oh, okay.
Being a kind
Slightly
of,
less
may not be a
reverent.
bad thing to put out there.
yeah, no, yeah, okay. Bill, you have a big surprise?
I was just reading the sort of futuristic guitar player.
Uh-huh.
I was thinking he was a bass, like a keyboard bass guitar player from band.
Parliament
Oh,
Funkadelic.
not from Parliament. No, it was from Bella Fleck and the Flecktones.
What?
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah, but no,
That seems like the whitest music in the world to me, Bella Fleck.
probably. Well, and
I feel like I
and
saw
so-
them at the Telluride Bluegrass Festival, and there was not
And-
a black face in that.
Well,
in
but
That
would
is
be
the
an
whitest
interesting-
sentence that may have ever been uttered.
Yeah, exactly.
And so
Exactly.
interestingly, it turned out to be a Swedish composer
Thing?
who actually did the soundtrack for the film.
A Swedish guy.
Yep. Ludwig
Yeah.
Göransson.
Ludwig Göransson. Yeah, he composed the film soundtrack, and
Is he the same
used-
one that writes all those Backstreet Boys songs and stuff? Like there's this studio in Sweden where these people just write songs and they just drop these pop music hits all the time. They write for other bands, and it's like Britney Spears and Backstreet, like all these bands just written by this one little townhouse in Sweden full of writers that put out all these songs.
Well, if I could tack on to like Bill, like the Ludwig
Okay.
Göransson, it's interesting because he's actually worked with Ryan Coogler. That like Ryan Coogler was in film school and Ludwig Göransson was in the music school, and he
Okay.
needed somebody to do like music for his like projects and stuff like that. So he's been doing work with him
Oh, that's
since
cool.
like Fruitvale Station and Black Panther and everything else. And Ludwig Göransson's father, I think, was like a blues guitarist or something. So he was already.
I think that just makes me think more about this idea that it's like about white people stealing black music. The fact that he's got some Swedish guy collaborating with him, he's not making that kind of a dumb statement about music, I don't think. I mean, I think it's just I think this guy has a lot more going on in terms of thinking about music than that. Joe, did you get a big surprise?
Yeah, my biggest surprise was that this movie, in part, came out of the wreckage of the so far unproduced Mahershala Blade movie.
Oh, yeah, I never thought about that.
Yeah, that specifically the one draft of the Blade movie was going to be a period piece.
Yeah,
and the costume designer had already done designs, already created some outfits. And then that version of the movie never ended up happening. And then
Right.
when Cinder started, she was attached to that project and bought those costumes back from Marvel and used them.
Wouldn't it be fun if Marvel somehow talked Ryan Coogler into making this the official Blade backstory, where
I mean, he's worked for her before.
Stack and Mary are the progenitors of Blade.
I was gonna say something about how Stack and Mary at the end, like the whole concept is that these vampires, they take over the soul of a person and blend with the soul of the person, so that the soul can't leave this earth, and they're like filled with hate, right, because of that. And it really seemed to me like those two characters aren't like that. They almost seem more like the guy from Interview with the Vampire. They seem to have some kind of a conscience and are like maybe trying to go about it in the least evil way possible. But maybe it's just that one scene where they act that way. I don't know. But
I mean, again, it goes back to Remick. They're free of his influence, so maybe they're more free to be themselves.
maybe they don't have to kill to live.
This is also the opinion of a hoodoo magician who just assumes they would be filled with hate because they couldn't reunite with their loved ones.
That's true. It's just one interpretation of
actually
what they are. Yeah. Her occult skills are not necessarily such that she's right all the time.
Or
Yeah.
maybe that was the solution, is the fact that the two of them, they had an estranged love, and then they healed it, and then they get to be together in not the afterlife, but as undead. So maybe that's why it would work for them, because they have each other, as opposed to like always longing for who they're missing.
Yeah. Here's also something kind of cynical to ask about it. After 70 years of being young and hot, do you really think they'd still be into each other? Or do you think they probably would have moved on? Like, it seems to me like that might last for 10 years and they'd be like, hey, like it's a big world and you look like you and I look like me. And maybe, I don't know. I kept thinking
they have a lot of shared interests.
Maybe like that's the reason for the Bill Cosby sweater, is that was the kink that she was into at the time.
Oh my God.
Well, she did come in with a lollipop. I mean, I'm just saying.
It's true.
No, she should have come in with a pudding pop, and that would have really nailed it.
Oh, Jesus. That would have been amazing.
So we got 6 people on the pod today.
Hang on, where's my biggest?
Do we?
I thought you gave your biggest. I thought you were playing off what we. Okay, go ahead. I recall, please.
Who is 2 people?
There's 5 of you and 1 of me. Oh, I'm on there. I was counting myself.
It's Dave and the vampire controlling him,
5.
clearly.
I was thinking I could only see the faces of other people, but that's not the case. I can see
I'll try to make mine real quick. So before we get into that, though, that's one thing I did want to mention as a little factoid. The set designer said that in the church they had like the cross beams in the church. Mm-hmm. That was specifically a homage to Chadwick Boseman from the Wakanda, like the Wakanda Forever arms crossing thing. They wanted to include that as an homage to him, which makes me wonder if originally this film was supposed to be him in the role of Stack and Smoke, or if it was supposed to be him and Michael B. Jordan as Smoke and Stack.
Oh, I forgot.
And they would have been actual cousins.
You're reminding me. I forgot to comment on how Remick dies just like Killmonger. He gets like stabbed through the heart and is sitting on his knees as the sun comes up. That's exactly how Killmonger dies. Like I thought that was another homage to that movie.
Okay. But my biggest surprise actually is just the fact that the inclusion of the Chinese Delta, characters, and like I was expecting this to be about primarily Black characters and like white vampires and everything else. So it was really nice for me to see all that, and also to kind of learn after the fact, like just watching videos about like what the life was like for the the Chinese Delta residents and in that part of the country, and what they went through, and that's the thing. It's like with everything, like this whole thing. I think like what you were saying before. I don't think it's necessarily about just white people stealing Black people's music and everything, but I think it is just about like cultures being like adopted by others and kind of reincorporated and merged with other ones, and just kind of like the whole.
I don't want to get too political, but it's kind of what I'm saying here is I hate that concept of cultural appropriation. I think people borrow from one another, and that's how art is made. And I mean, you can do something that's cultural appropriation. You can be obnoxious about it, but generally speaking, I don't think that's what's happening. Joe, you got one more thing? Gosh darn it, go ahead.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm not sure if this counts as a nitpick or a second biggest surprise, but I was just very disappointed that he was not credited as Michael A. Jordan and Michael B. Jordan.
So let's go ahead and vote. Andrew, what's your vote? Classic?
Yeah, definitely.
Bill?
Yes.
And we don't have time for anybody to explain themselves. I just want a binary answer here. Chris?
Just
2 enthusiastic thumbs up.
Good. There you go. All right. So that's 3 already. We're already outvoted, Joe, no matter what we think. Are we going to make this unanimous?
I think so. I mean, I like From Dusk Till Dawn, so an actual good version of that movie is definitely a classic.
You liked From Dusk Till Dawn, but do you think it was good or did you just enjoy it?
No comment.
Okay. Okay,
hold on.
right.
I'd like to change my biggest surprise. Joe liked From Dusk Till Dawn.
Are you really that surprised? Honestly,
no, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised you enjoyed it. I'd be a little surprised if you were like, this is Quentin Tarantino's greatest piece of filmmaking or something.
You watched Grindhouse with me in the theater, Chris.
I know,
all right, well,
but
I think I'm going to have to say that since this movie came out in 2025, I'm going to grade it on a curve, and I'm saying this is like maybe the best movie of the year because we just don't get great movies anymore. This is a much, much better movie than anything that's coming out these days. And in that sense, I think it's just got to be called a classic. Even if I didn't think it was inherently a really good movie. I do. I think it was really good anyway. But there are just not any good movies coming out. And it was so nice to go to the movie theater and see something that was original. I just thought it was great to see an original piece of film that was enjoyable and entertaining. I just thought it was one of the best movies I've seen in the theater in a long time. So I'm definitely voting for it. So for Toasting the Classics, let's start saying goodbye, everybody, in turn. You guys are not in the same position, so I'm gonna say, Andrew, say goodbye.
This is Andrew saying goodbye.
Bill? Usually, I feel like the first time I ask somebody to say goodbye on the show, it's a disaster. There was one time we had to re-record Chris saying goodbye like 4 times. I don't remember why. It was just like,
Yeah, but that was because I was sloppy drunk, right?
oh, that might be. Yeah, that might. All
I'm
right,
surprised
so-
it doesn't happen more often.
yeah, exactly. Well, it does.
He had
but
the
it gets,
giggles.
it gets edited out a little bit sometimes. Bill,
Goodbye, everyone.
Chris,
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us. Good to be back.
Joe.
Yeah, goodbye. And if you see a stranger, probably don't let him in.
Probably not. That's right. And for Dave McArthur, I'm signing off. Thanks for joining us. Peace out, everybody.